Hello and welcome to another video in our Embrace the Change series, where we speak to businesses and organisations discussing some of the challenges that they've had to face across 2020 and how they have adapted. And I'm really happy to be joined today by Charlie O'Brien from Hello Monday Life Coaching and Therapy. Charlie, it's great to have you with us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. And I must just say, I'm not creeping up at the beginning of this, but I love the concept of embrace the change, actually, because that kind of sums up a lot of what I do in my work. So I think that's a really positive message you guys are putting out there. Absolutely.
It's important to end the year on a somewhat positive note when you think of all the things that everyone's had to go through this year. So, Charlie, for people watching this who don't know you, don't know your business, could you tell us, give us a short summary of what it is that you do there over at Hello Monday?
So I am a life coach and a therapist, first and foremost a hypnotherapist, but I'm actually now a trainee psychotherapist as well. So a lot of therapy in there. But essentially what I do is work with people, mainly women actually, to help them get to the place in their life that they want to be that through coaching or therapy. Coaching and therapy are actually very different. It takes clients a while to get their heads around that, and it took me a while to get my head around the difference between the two. But essentially it's all about helping someone kind of move from here to here, working out all the stuff in between, perhaps all the stuff that's gone before, and get them to a place in their life where they are kind of living their true authentic self and achieving what they want to achieve, because there's so much stuff that holds us back. And quite often we need another person to help facilitate that.
Yeah, of course. It's really valuable to have someone there to sort of support you and talk through and guide you onto the next stage of your journey. So, Charlie, this might be a bit of a presumptuous statement that I'm about to make, but it's probably been quite a busy year for you, hasn't it, 2020?
It has. It's been a really odd year. It started out, so when we became aware of this pandemic and what it meant for us, and especially the first lockdown, I got really busy, really busy. People went into panic mode. Adrenaline kicked in. I think we all felt it. There was this great sense of fear, the fear of the unknown, and anxiety and stress was the main thing that I was kind of seeing. So people would book a session for me and say that it was for one thing, but then actually it was really anxiety and stress and fear. There was a big fear-based response, which I think is understandable. We were all catapulted into this unknown that, none of us had ever sort of worked our way through anything like this before. So that was very busy. And then things as we got used to lockdown life, I saw a different type of client come in, and they were the people who had started to look inwards, which I think we've all done this year. We've all been forced to look inwards, whatever our situation, and because a lot of us have spent more time at home, less busy. Obviously, when I say all this stuff, I'm generalising. There are a lot of people, frontline workers who have been so busy this year, they haven't had time to breathe. So there's a bit of a caveat there. I don't want it to sound like, we've all just had all this time at home, because I know that's not the case. But I certainly saw a type of client who came to me sort of into the summer months, who had been at home, perhaps been furloughed or been working from home, and had suddenly thought, this isn't what I want to do with my life. And it kind of brought up all those big existential questions, what am I doing here? What's the purpose of my life? What is my purpose? And that kind of brought in quite a lot of coaching clients, which was really nice, actually. It was really powerful work. People who had perhaps been thinking these things for years, but it took a pandemic to push them into making some changes, perhaps making big career changes. Then it kind of got quieter again. And then as we've gone into the winter, that sort of, I think it's been a bit of a shift into people feeling quite fatigued, quite fed up, maybe a bit depressed, anxious again, unsure about what's going on in the world, in their own life, in their own situation. So I've sort of seen these different trends throughout the year. And then as we head towards Christmas, it has quietened down again, and people are sort of saying to me, I haven't got the headspace to think about myself now until the new year. So it's interesting. There's been some quite distinct patterns, actually.
No, I think that's very interesting. And as you quite rightly pointed out, it's given the opportunity for well, not everybody, but for some people, the opportunity to slow down, sit with how they feel, reflect on it, and decide whether they feel as though they would like to or they need to do something about that. And I guess it's very insightful for you because you get a sense of the mental health of the nation.
At times it's been really worrying for me because I think, there are so many factors in this, and there's so many things that can be impacted, and mental health is certainly one of them. I've dealt with clients who are completely by themselves, no family, live alone, and they're working virtually like this, and they're feeling isolated and they're feeling lonely and they're missing human connection and human touch. And all those things that we took for granted, absolutely took for granted, being with our colleague. I mean, I'm used to not being with people. I work from home anyway, so actually it wasn't much of a change for me. But people who've, been in busy offices, or perhaps people that don't have a partner or a family. So, going to the shops or going to friends' houses is a lifeline for them. And suddenly it was all taken away. So, yeah, I've very much seen everything that's been going on behind the scenes. Some of it quite upsetting. Some of it quite scary at times. I know that I haven't actually worked with any students, but I heard a report yesterday about how badly student mental health has been affected. So I am very aware of kind of all the different things going on, but it's not all negative. There's some great stuff going on as well. A lot of there's been a period of self-discovery. As I say, people reassessing their lives, reassessing themselves and their skills. And that's actually a really positive thing that I think has come out of it.
Yeah. And I think it's very important to present a real picture of what's going on out there, the good and the bad. Charlie, you touched on there that you are already somewhat work from home. So how have you had to adapt and change the way you operate your business in 2020?
Yeah, so I mean, it's just me in my little company, but this office you see here is actually at the end of my garden. It's a proper little building, a little brick building, and I used to see clients here. I've got a therapy chair behind me. So I used to kind of do 50-50. So 50% of my clients I would see here and 50% I would see online. So actually I had a little bit of a head start above some therapists who'd never done online work, because it was almost frowned upon, online counselling, online psychotherapy, online hypnotherapy. A lot of people sort of said, no, that shouldn't be done. It should only be done in a face-to-face capacity. I never agreed with that, because I get people who contact me from all over the world. They find me through social media. And if they want to work with me, then I think, well, why not? Let's not let, geographical barriers be a problem. So I've always worked on Zoom, but what the pandemic meant is I've had to go 100% online. And with that, I don't know if you've ever had hypnotherapy, but for example, there are a lot of considerations, a lot of safety aspects, and you're not with that person should they go into sort of some kind of bad reaction or something. So extra training, extra learning, but essentially it can be done. Absolutely, it can be done.
I think it's amazing that you've been able to keep your services so accessible during this really difficult time. And in many ways, you were kind of somewhat ahead of what became the trends of 2020, where you were kind of able to operate from home and give sessions virtually there. And I'm sure that's been incredibly beneficial for your clients and for yourself. I wanted to just speak a little bit more generally, Charlie. We know the picture's been quite difficult this year for people across the UK and worldwide. But, speaking generally, people have been suffering with, anxieties, with the uncertainties that this year has presented. So is there any kind of advice you would be willing to offer for people that perhaps are feeling a bit unsure of themselves?
Absolutely. I actually thought you might ask me this, so I've made some notes because I wanted to get this right. And obviously, this is only coming from my perspective. Every therapist would come at this differently. But in terms of anxiety, my biggest tip is, first of all, normalise it.
Yeah.
I get clients come to me and say, "There's something wrong with me. I'm broken. I'm a freak of nature." And when we sort of strip it back and look at the purpose that anxiety serves, it's very primal. We were given this function. When we were primal beings, in order to fight or flight from danger. Okay, so it actually serves a function. It's part of us as human beings. So if you can normalise it and know that actually you're completely normal, every human experiences anxiety. you know, it's when it gets out of control and it becomes an anxiety disorder or something that, you know, we do need to sort of step in and make some interventions. But yeah, normalize it would be my first thing. And know that it's adrenaline based. It's based on adrenaline. You know, we all know that feeling when we're presented with a scary situation. Essentially, we're not primal beings anymore. We're not having to fight a bear or a tiger. So we get that adrenaline surge, say when an email pops in from our boss. You know, it's not actually a threat to our survival, but our brain perceives it as such. So I think just understanding some of the basics can really help and take away that stigma or that worry that there's something wrong with you. The second is to allow it and don't fight it. The temptation with anxiety is to do everything you can to keep it at bay and to fight it away. And all you're doing there is keeping yourself within that anxiety cycle because you're constantly on alert, like waiting for it to come. You know, will it come in tonight? Will it arrive tomorrow morning? If you actually can get used to allowing it and almost kind of saying, okay, come and sit with me for a bit and let's see how we get on, that can actually be a really good way of tackling the issue. Not that it's an issue, but if that makes any sense at all. And then finally, I'd say work out what works for you. Everyone is different. We all need some time out from our thoughts, because essentially it's the thoughts that will create the fears and then create the behaviour. So whether that is breathing exercises, I've got a favourite breathing exercise that I do with everybody, and it's called 4-7-8 breathing. And you literally just breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and release for 8. And if you do that 4 times, it takes you from that stressed adrenaline, cortisol kind of state to a state where you feel calm and you can actually start thinking rationally again and carry on with your day. So breathing, taking time out, I think is really important, especially at the moment. I think we've all read about Zoom fatigue. People are actually getting very fatigued doing this all day long. It's fine to an extent, but if you're only seeing people on a computer screen and that's your only interaction in the day, we know that it's very tiring because, you know, when you're in a room with somebody, you read their body language, you pick up on the non-verbal communication. When you're screen to screen, your brain has to work so much harder to process that. So it's really tiring. So take time out, take regular breaks, get enough sleep, exercise. We know the benefits of exercise for mental health, even though I'm terrible at doing this myself. Eat well and finish off those tasks. You know, if you've got a load of things, it's like having a load of tabs open on your computer. If you've got all those tabs open in your mind all the time, you're constantly going to be in this state of anxiety because you've got this unfinished business. So if you can sort of finish your tasks and set yourself goals as well and achieve those goals, essentially you'll feel a lot better. But and getting out in nature as well, getting outside. Wherever you live, whatever you're set up, you know, whether you're living in a huge mansion or a 1-bedroom flat, you can get outside, get out into nature, reconnect with something that's bigger than you and bigger than your thoughts. You know, even if it's in the rain. I know, like, it's tempting to stay indoors in the winter, isn't it? And hibernate, which is nice. But get out there, feel the elements, feel the rain on your face. And it's really good for you.
I think those are some really valuable tips and points, Charlie. So thank you for sharing those. I mean, thinking about it, I feel as though, like most people, we kind of know this stuff, don't we, on a very basic level. But it's so important to have someone professional who has expertise and experience, like, guide you and explain it to you and give you context. So thanks for sharing that. I wanted to move on now to talking about mental health. There's, you know, the spotlight on mental health this year. I think it's been given more of a spotlight than perhaps we've had in previous years. You certainly hear a lot more about mindfulness, and there's a lot more content and material out and about for mental health. But do you think, I mean, like, speaking to you about your experiences with your company, you know, you've said that people were taking a more personal responsibility, but do you think one of the positive takeaways this year could also be that we might see some of the larger corporates and companies taking that into consideration, mental health, as a cornerstone of policy kind of going forward?
I think so. I think there's still a long way to go. I think any discussion is a good discussion. If you think about the difference between even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you know, we've come on leaps and bounds. And I think there's a new generation of young people coming through who absolutely are going to be constantly flying the flag for mental health. And that's what we need. And speaking to clients, a lot of their employers are kind of being more mindful about looking after their employees' mental health. But I still think there's a long way to go. It's easy to pay lip service to this stuff. It's easy for a company to have a mental health protocol, for example, but unless you're really putting it into practice, it's just a bit of paper. So I would encourage companies to keep going with that. Do the research. Ask your employees, what do they need? We know that people function better and actually are more productive if they have a better work-life balance. And I think, if anything, this year has taught us that working can be done remotely. I don't think it should be done entirely, but for those reasons of isolation and the Zoom fatigue. But, there's so many sectors that have said to people in the past, this can't be done from home. Yeah. Look how much stuff is being done from home because we were forced to do it. It had to happen. These companies had no choice, and they were able to turn that around very quickly. And yeah, it's been a work in progress, but let's not forget what's happened this year. Let's move forward into 2021, 2022, and take those lessons with us. Allow more flexible working for everybody, for families. Allow mental health breaks for people, because ultimately, if you do that, if you nurture your employees' mental health, they will be better for you. To me, it's always been a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
I used to work in radio and the media, and it was a pretty cutthroat environment. I went through some quite difficult personal things in my life while I was doing that. And you just had to keep it quiet. There was no support. And you know what? That's not how life should be. We're all here for a short time. Let's look after each other. And let's take these lessons we've learnt this year and run with it and make humanity better. God, I sound like I'm doing a Miss World speech now, don't I? But yeah, I'm quite passionate about it.
This is your TED Talk, Charlie.
That's what we have.
I think I've got a bit of work to do.
I think you made some really, really valuable points there. And it's well documented, isn't it? The poor relationship that the media has with mental health in the workplace. But that's also true of so many other sectors as well. And one of the other points that you really well illustrated there was the importance that big changes can happen quite quickly, but it's important to make it every day and make it habitual to make those larger sort of shifts for yourself, but also those kind of cultural changes inside of companies and corporates. I just wanted to ask, Charlie, do you think having that media background has perhaps helped you adapt with the technology this year?
I think so, because I think when you've worked in radio and had to kind of deal with technology, in a live broadcast environment, which I have. I mean, I think back to some of the things I did, and I was a journalist, but I was a journalist at the time when I had to lug around a satellite pack with me. We didn't have. I sound like a dinosaur now. We didn't have smartphones, so if you wanted to get a bit of breaking news back to the studio, you had to set up a satellite link, and it was actually quite dangerous. So you had to tell everyone around you not to walk through your satellite link. I mean, God, when I think back to what I did. So yeah, I think that has taught me to be very adaptable and not be fearful. I'm not the best with technology, but I'm not scared of it. I'm happy to give it a go. And equally with social media, I'm quite happy to do an Instagram live or a Facebook live, or, and talk and communicate with people and share messages about mental health through social media as well, because we can essentially all be our own broadcast studio these days. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, I don't know. But, all of us have got the potential to get a message out there, haven't we, through our phones? And so, yeah, I think it absolutely has helped.
I'd just like to end on a positive thought, hopefully. Kind of looking forward to next year. People are always trying to seek certainties in uncertain times. From your experiences from this year, what do you feel optimistic about? What are you looking forward to from your experiences in 2020 that you think is going to help make positive change in 2021?
Well, I'm looking forward to, a vaccination program potentially, so we can start getting back to normal, whatever that is, and the most vulnerable in our society being able to reintegrate again. I think that's a really exciting thought. I think things that we can take into 2021 are the lessons we've learned about what we're grateful for in our lives. You know, we don't actually need a lot of external stuff. We can be quite happy with not a lot. And I think that's always been a big message that I've banged the drum for. You know, be grateful, practice gratitude, you know, work out the things in your day that actually make you happy rather than constantly seeking, you know, entertainment or buying new things, because we haven't been able to do that this year. We've had to really go back to basics. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the world needed that reset. So I'm excited with the thought that hopefully we can take that into the future. I hope. Personally, I'm excited to carry on. I'm training to be a psychotherapist at the moment, so I've got a lot of study on. I'm excited to carry on with that. I'm excited to grow my business, maybe even get into a therapy room space. You know, we haven't been able to actually do that this year. That was my goal for this year, to actually hire a space, and I haven't been able to do that. So perhaps do that next year, but also carry on with the online stuff because it works. You know, I've had clients in the Middle East, I've had clients in America. Why not? You know, we've got this technology. So yeah, I'm just excited that hopefully humanity can sort of take a step forward from this for the better. I think we've learned a lot about ourselves.
Absolutely. Lots of opportunity for growth there and reasons to be optimistic going into next year. Charlie, just before I finish, where can people find you if they want to know more about Hello Monday Coaching and Therapy? What's your website? What are your socials?
Thank you. My website is charlieobrien.co.uk. I need to do a lot on it over Christmas. And the main place I hang out on socials is Instagram, and I'm Charlie O'Brien Therapy on there. And I'm always on there sharing little quotes or inspirational things or explaining how hypnotherapy works, for example. So yeah, I'm on there quite a lot. So come and say hi.
Charlie, it's been excellent speaking with you. Thank you very much for joining us on Embrace the Change today.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I hope 2021 is a good year for you guys as well.